Hello and welcome to another episode of the Menswear Style Podcast. I'm your host Pete Brooker. Today I am talking to Robin Carlo, one of the co-owners of Lennertson Shoe, and Lennertson, Lennertson, is a rugged and refined style shoe and boot maker, aiming to make style items that better represent people like us, the lion-hearted. Translates to the core principle we swear by when designing footwear. Naturally, I'm reading off their website. Rugged, refined, this is our mantra. As such, it dictates our choice of shape, proportion, patterns, and materials. I really enjoyed talking to Robin. He went out of his way, set up his own microphone, got a different feed and a different video just to make sure that the audio was crisp. So, and a really tuned in guy. I think you'll appreciate this one. Here is Robin to talk about the brand in his own words. Well, it's my great pleasure to introduce to the podcast Robin Carlo, co-owner of Lennertson Shoes. How are we doing today, Robin?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me. Hi, Pete. Let me just say, I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. I'm a real podcast nerd, and I really enjoy yours, so I'm very excited to be here today.
Yeah, we were just talking off mic about the elaborate setup that Robin's got going on here just to appear on the podcast. He's dragged out an old kick drum microphone. He's got the audio going through another channel. He's got it beaming off 3 different satellites. So I really appreciate the effort here.
Yeah, you're welcome, man.
But Robin, please, for the uninitiated, introduce yourself and how best do you describe Lennertson Shoes to your friends?
Right. So, like I said, my name is Robin Carlo. I'm co-owner and founder of Lennertson, or Lennertson, if you want to pronounce it a little bit more Anglo-Saxon. But that's Lennertson for those listening. How would I describe Lennertson to my friends? Well, I think most of my close friends kind of see me as the guy who's always telling a story, or more frankly, the natural-born marketeer. So I'll probably explain to them the exact same way I do across all of our channels. I think our Instagram bio really encapsulates it very well, which is that we make refined footwear for the rugged individual that's built to last by people who care in Europe. So concretely, there are 3 core values in that. The first being style, not just any style, but one that we refer to as rugged refined. The second being quality, not just talking about quality, as sadly a lot of companies do these days, but actually delivering on quality. For us, specifically, that translates to making shoes using the traditional Goodyear Weld construction method and sourcing high-end materials. And lastly, the fact that we're an ethical company. So there are no workers in some corner of the world being exploited just because we felt like designing some shoes. It's passionate shoemakers we work with, people that really take pride in their craft. Okay,
cool. And so what's your background personally coming into this?
So both me and my business partner had no background in the shoe or fashion industry at all. Just like to make a point, my business partner's first name is also Robin, so that often creates a lot of confusion. So I'll just refer to him henceforth as my partner. But I also want to make clear we just launched a brand, so we both have day jobs as well. I work as a brand strategist for an agency, something that I'm also very passionate about, helping other companies define their brand and stand out in the marketplace. And my partner is a graphic designer and videographer. So what I think defines both of us the most is the fact that we're pretty all-around creative people. That's also actually how we met and became friends. We've been friends for more than 15 years.
Wow.
We met because we played in a metal band together, which we still have some real cool stories about. So through music, and since then we've collaborated on many creative projects ever since. But I do want to emphasize, we're not just marketeers for this brand. We actually design the shoes ourselves. I personally am pretty much self-educated in about everything I've done in my life. So before we started this project, I read about every book there is on shoe construction. I cut shoes apart really to understand how the product is made, what the mechanics behind the product are. So we're heavily involved in every aspect of the brand, basically.
And So why shoes? I mean, was it something that you were noticing in your day job that people weren't quite getting right, or something that you were wearing that wasn't happening for you? What's the story?
Absolutely, yeah, definitely in the day job. The thing is, like I said, the style aspect is really important for us. The thing that we want to be rugged, refined, like the mix of the two. So both my partner and I, we kind of grew up in like different subcultures, punk rock and stuff, and we were always wearing like plimsoll shoes, black Vans kind of stuff. And then you grow up and you get a job, and at a certain point I had a decent job where I had to have meetings with government officials and stuff, and I had to wear decent shoes. And especially if you look in Belgium, Holland, and pretty much all of continental Europe, really, dress shoes are really fancy here. Like they might be refined, but they're never rugged refined. So this was something that I just felt was lacking. And yeah, I felt a personal need for this kind of shoe. And I made an educated guess there would be other people who felt the same. And yeah, that's pretty much how we got started. Yeah.
So they're like you're wearing fancy shoes that weren't really you. You didn't really feel.
Exactly.
I mean, they could be comfy, but you didn't feel that comfortable in them. That
No,
they're your
I
style.
absolutely felt like an imposter, to be honest.
That's the word I was groping for. Thank you.
Yeah, felt like I was playing a part. There's this, I don't know how to translate this, but yeah, a good way to say a lot of, especially Belgian dress shoe brands look very dad-like modest, a little bit posh, but also modest, and just very well behaved and well dad-like. I can't explain it any other way. It really didn't felt like myself, and yeah, that's what motivated me to try and figure out if we could do something ourselves.
And what was interesting, actually, that kind of segues into a question I was going to ask, but you prompted me in the emails about who your customer is. Are they more people like you that have found themselves stepping into domesticity by mischance and now needing a decent pair of shoes, but don't want to get the dad shoes or the flashy shoes? So who are your customers?
Well, for a part, definitely that. So yeah, I proposed that question because I think it's a very interesting subject. Also, just from a sociology standpoint, looking at different kinds of people. So just geographically, I'm very happy that in the short time that we've been selling shoes, we've managed to resonate with people all over the world, which I definitely wasn't expecting before we launched. So that's one part. It's continental Europe, but it's also the UK, Scandinavia, the United States. We get a lot of orders from. So that's just in terms of geography. But if I look at like the different kinds of buyers, the personality types, if you will, there are like three main categories. The first one would be people that are actually used to wearing the typical continental dad-like dress shoes, and really haven't ever thought about it. They wear them, they like wearing them, but then they see ours and they're like, huh, that's a little different, and it just resonates with them. That's one category. The second would be what I would call the boot heads. So I don't know if you ever see them on Instagram. It's like the same kind of guys who are really into salvage denim and like these Japanese denim brands, and they're really into boots, mostly American boots, but that's footwear that's purely rugged, not really refined. And what's funny, they're into our brand, but they don't really buy our boots much. They're really into our shoes because they look at our shoes and they're like, huh, when I need to wear a shoe, that's a shoe that has a boot vibe, because it's a little bit more rugged.
Right.
And then finally, the final category is definitely, ourselves as a prototype. It's people who used to be like part of some subculture, be it skateboarders, punk rockers, metalheads, or if they're a little bit older, perhaps people are really into like the mod scene. And they see our shoes and something just really resonates with them. It's like, okay, yeah, if I want to wear something that's a little bit more decent, a little bit more dressed, this is absolutely me. And yeah, so that's pretty much the three main buyer types.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because it sounds like we're not too dissimilar in our choice of style, where we are much more comfortable being in a casual element. That's kind of what our modality is. And then as soon as you have to get dressed up, either for work or an event, like we just mentioned, it almost feels like you're putting a costume on to go to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
place. But this kind of fits the bill, or allows you to kind of slide into that look without having to completely force yourself into something else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. On our website, in the about page, I also wrote, it is a duality. There is a tension, but that's part of your personality. If you resonate with our brand, you are both rugged and refined,
Yeah.
and that's who you are. And so, exactly, you don't need to dress up. It's just who you are, and it matches.
I dig it, man. So,
Great.
where was the, how did you raise the capital? I'm always curious how these
Yeah.
brands like these get started.
First off, I think I should point out that we started this brand with very limited capital. So part of it is just our own money out of our own pocket, some savings and stuff. A larger part is some funds I've borrowed from a family member. And then we also did a pre-order campaign in October that helped raise some additional funds. But still, it's a small scale operation that we're starting with. So we produce limited production runs. But I do think, how you raise capital is one thing, but how you spend it early on is another important thing. And that's where me being a brand strategist and working in marketing, and my partner being a videographer, graphic designer, we have a lot of skill in-house, especially for an online brand. We don't have to pay other people to do this stuff, or even the design of the shoes. We don't have to pay a designer because we're doing everything ourselves. So those skills have come in handy. And I do think that, generally speaking, if I may say so myself, I think we're doing a pretty good job with the branding, because I often notice that new people will discover the brand. Peter, you might be one of them, and they'll often think that we're bigger than we actually are.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make this clear. We are at this point just two friends who are into designing things, who have recently launched a shoe brand. We're very dedicated and serious into turning this into a profitable, successful brand. But at this point, we are just two friends designing shoes, if I'm being completely honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, the website, which is kind of like the front of house for your brand, right? If you're online, looks very comprehensive. It's, well spelled out. Imagery is really good. Again,
Thanks.
You guys are doing it all in house. So I think you have to kind of harness those skills, don't you? When you're a small company, you can't really build something when someone's just got an idea of how to draw a shoe on the back of a fag packet. So that's not only going to get you so far down the road. You might have a good idea, but it always helps when you've got some a couple of arrows in the quiver there.
Yeah, I don't know which one is better. If you have a lot of money to invest, I'm not saying we're the smartest entrepreneurs out there. We're trying to be smart entrepreneurs, but it's just the way we are doing it. And also, we're very passionate about it, but at the same time, the shoe brand is kind of a project for experimentation. So creating different kinds of content and stuff is producing those is also stuff that we really enjoy doing. So it's a great place to just be creative for us, the brand, both with the shoes and with the marketing side of things, really.
And how close were you to calling the brand Robin and Robin? Was that a name in the hat?
I actually, when we were coming up with different names, there was one, I'm not sure what it exactly was at this point, but that was based on the fact that we're both Robin, but it turned out to be something that was already in existence. So I'm really happy we sell with Lennertson. People seem to resonate with the name very well, and it's not in use much, especially in this more Dutch spelling. There are not many people out there using it. So yeah, I'm really happy with it.
What does it mean?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So Leonard, or Leonard, like Leonard, how you write it in English, and every variant, comes from an old medieval Germanic name, Leeuwenhart, which means to have the heart of a lion, like lion-hearted. That's basically what it means. And we were like, that really matches, what we're going for with the rugged, refined, and Um, that's one piece of it. We added sun because we want to convey a sense of heritage, even though we're not a heritage brand, we're brand new, but our shoes are being made in a very traditional way. And then when the name came together, a more philosophical, if you will, meaning to it is we started riffing on the idea like, who do we think is lion-hearted? Who are the brave people in our lives? And we settled on the idea that it's actually about our parents. So what defines both the other Robin and myself is the fact that we're typical working class sons. So we've had, I've seen him grow up. We've known each other for a long time. We have parents that really worked very hard in their life, sacrificed everything in order to get their kids ahead in life, which is not really like the idea of the self-made man. It's not really a sexy story besides John Lennon's song, maybe Working Class Hero. But that's pretty much who we are, and we're really grateful for them living their lives that way, because it is something that gave us the opportunity, for example, to start Lennertson. So it's kind of a tribute to our parents as well.
That's nice. That's a nice story. That's got some romance to it. I love that.
From a brand strategy viewpoint, I think that's why it's a good name, because people always ask, what does it mean? You get a dialogue and, you're talking about your brand.
That's good. Yeah, if you just said, "Oh, I just pulled it out of the sky," well, I mean, Kodak. To be fair, that doesn't mean anything. They pulled that out of the sky. Yeah, if you ever look like, why did the guy changed? I can't remember what it was called before. He goes, "I'm going to call it Kodak," and someone went, "What does that mean?" He goes, "Absolutely nothing. Moving on." Still around. Anyway,
if it sounds good, is also important.
That does. It's got to have a ring to it, right?
Yeah.
Tell me, Robin, where? But more importantly, how are these shoes and boots made, please?
Right. So the shoes are built in Almansa, which is a small traditional shoemaker town in the southwest of Spain, close to Valencia. I think working in a shoe factory is the most common trade in this town. People have been doing that for generations. There are a bunch of factories there and workshops. We design them here at home in Belgium. And I also want to mention that we design and develop the shoe last, which, if any of your listeners don't know what a shoe last is, it's the shape on which the shoe is built. It's often glossed over, but it's an incredibly fundamental asset for defining the shape of the shoe, which is a fundamental part of the aesthetic as well. So we collaborated with Michael James from Springline on that one. It's Springline is located in Northampton, which is the shoemaking town of England.
Epicenter of shoemaking in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Springline is the last remaining shoe last maker in England. And we collaborated with Michael on designing the last. So everything is custom. And how are they made? Well, by all these different people. That's important. I already mentioned we use a Goodyear welt technique, which is a more than 150-year-old shoemaking method that yields the most durable shoes. But the thing is, people are making these shoes. I always want to get this across to people, and many people. Like, it really is. We can, we could brag about the fact, we're designing the shoes from scratch, paper and pencil, and that is where it starts. But I really want to give props to the people we're working with, because Michael, for example, in Springline, the influence he had in designing the last with us was very significant. Great guy to work with, by the way. And if we look at the factory, we had a very long development period. We spent up to 4 years developing prototypes, working with 4 different shoe factories. And just to give some reference, that's really unusual for most shoe startups. Most just go to one and they'll figure it out there. But we were very specific on what we wanted to do, and the partners we ended up with in Almansa, they also have an influence. The way they finish the shoe, the way they translate our pattern from a 2D illustration to an actual 3D shoe, the way especially we have a couple of styles that are like hand painted. They're really putting like their touch to it. So they are our designs, but in the end, it's really a collaborative effort.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, so that's Basically, that sounds like that would have taken a long time to get a prototype together as well. If you're
Yeah,
putting it through a lot of different hands. So what was that like when you first had the shoe in the hand? Was it a hallelujah moment?
not really, to be honest,
Did it get
because
Lord room?
we've when the first prototype that we made with our current partner wasn't a perfect shoe. It almost never is, but it was a perfect pattern, and that was the first factory that translated the pattern correctly. So at a certain point, when we finished our last, which we made with Michael, we made a last before in Portugal, but that didn't work out. So that's how we ended up with Michael James. When we had a finished last that we approved, we sent it out to 4 different factories, 3 in Spain and 1 in Portugal, and we all asked them to make the same shoe. And the funny thing is, we ended up with 4 different shoes.
Oh wow! Okay.
That's how much influence every stage of the process has. So when we got the first one from our current manufacturer, we could see like there were a number of fundamental things that were just spot on, and we were okay. These are the ones that we're going to work with. So we improved with them along the way. And yeah, it just worked out in a great collaborative effort. And they're I have to say this, they're what differentiates them the most from the other factories we worked with is the fact that we might ask something and they'll say, we haven't done this exact thing before. And with most factories, that's where that ends. They'll say, so try this thing that we're doing every day. But the people we're working with now, they're like, we haven't tried this, so we want to try it. They really like a challenge, and that's a great way to collaborate.
That's pretty cool. I also, just as you were talking there, had this thought. I haven't really fleshed it out, but here we go. I've been doing this podcast probably for about 5 years. And in the first couple of years, there was a lot of Kickstarter campaigns with watches. Yeah. It just felt like anyone could go out, design a watch, cut out the middleman, and boom, go on Kickstarter, and you'd have a watch there and then. It'll be your own design. And I feel like now there's, in the last couple of years, a huge push towards either skincare or shoes. It doesn't necessarily have to be people like yourselves who don't have a background in shoes, but perhaps have a background in something else that they can apply and transfer them skills to making a brand work. Did you find that this is actually a crowded market with people coming to factories wanting to make their own shoes? And do you find people kind of fall by the wayside because they don't have the right approach to it?
Interesting question. So is it a crowded market? Yeah, I guess, but we're doing something, everybody needs shoes, but nobody needs expensive shoes. That being said, we have very competitive pricing, but it is a considerable amount. So it is a luxury product in the end. A dress shoe just is. And when you get that type of customer, they're really looking for something that's nuanced, and we are nuanced. We're doing our own thing. It's not screaming uniqueness. It is a nuanced approach, like I said. But I think the market is getting crowded with a different kind of new brand. And one question that you wrote in the email that I was thinking about is what makes us different? And I think I've already touched on it a little bit. But another part that's interesting, and for me to explain it, I would have to kind of reveal a dirty little secret of the shoe industry. Something a lot of people don't know, but most new brands and some mainstream brands as well, actually, don't design shoes. Very little people know this, but about every factory in Europe, shoe factory, has their own set of factory standard lasts, their own collection of standard models, a Derby, an Oxford, whatever. And most brands will just go to one of these factories, pick out one of these lasts, pick a pattern, choose some colors, slap their name on it, and that's pretty much it. I don't want to throw shade at any of these brands. There's nothing wrong with this business model. But there are a lot of those brands. Any day that I'm scrolling on Instagram, I'm not exaggerating. I'll see 5 up to 10 different brands. And I personally know that they're all made at the same factory, and I even know which factory because because I've been there and I can just see, okay, yeah, that's definitely that lost with that pattern. So, maybe the most average consumer won't notice this. I'm not sure, but I think it's definitely getting crowded for those brands. I'm not sure, with original branding and marketing, you can do a lot, but I'm happy that we are different. It took us a long time, a lot of a lot of headaches as well, up to 4 years, like I said. But in the end, we are doing something that we can really stand behind and be proud of. And we just notice that people notice that it is slightly different. It is unique. We're just two guys running a shoe brand out of a garage at this point. But there's all these people from the United States that, trust us enough, that feel the brand and the designs resonate enough with them in order for them to, import them and ship them to them. So that means something, I think.
Yeah. And also, if you have a community around you, then the people that do get it really get it. I remember,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and guys that are into their shoes, sneakers, and boots, they're kind of fanatical about this.
Yeah.
I had a friend, he was massively into sneakers, and at a time I never really got it, but I do now. And we were on the train to London, and his trainers, they were white, they looked like they were covered in cement and crap. And I said, dude, what's going on with you? How come you didn't clean these on the way out? He goes, this is the design. They're supposed to look shagged, basically.
Yeah.
I was like, what? How much do they cost? And he said they cost like an astronomical amount. And
Right.
but I was kind of fixated on his shoes from then on, because there was something different about him, and he'd kind of had the idea to get these trainers, and no one else was ever going to be wearing these. These were like really ahead of their time. So yeah, I think I didn't really have a point to that, but I do know that when guys are into their shoes and they find their brand, or they find something different about that brand, they love to
Yeah.
latch onto it, and it becomes like a conversation stimulator for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Uh, Robin, conscious we're just running out of time on the Zoom, but I feel like I could talk to you for a long time. But tell me, what's next for the brand? What plans have we got for 2022?
Well, we had a plan drawn out at the end of last year, but we had to reassess a couple of times because of COVID and our stuff. We had a little bit of a rough start. There are a lot of supply chain issues going around in all industries. It's probably not new to anybody. So we had to reassess, and we're still reassessing, to be honest. But on the product side, I can say we're moving on with this current collection. So we got a stock of this now. They remain popular. They keep being ordered, but we're also going to be sampling some other models, probably the same styles, but in different colors, different materials. We're looking to make some suede styles, perhaps some wax suedes, some material that I'm really into as of late. We're probably first going to gather some feedback on those before we decide which ones we're going to actually put into production. So that's one thing. Also working on a brand new design, and that's a stylish hike boot. I've had that idea in the back of my head like since forever, but I think we're finally gonna start developing it. And the one thing, it's a small thing, but I'm really excited about it. It's in May, we're part of a consumer trade fair in Germany. It's run by the people from the Heritage Post magazine. Not sure if you're familiar with those.
No, sorry.
It's a really cool magazine about, heritage style clothing and all sorts of stuff.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, they're doing basically convention with all these different brands coming, and I'm just really excited about it. And in that line of thought, we're also looking into the possibility of doing some pop-ups or collaborations with some retail stores, because when COVID starts winding down, we really look forward to engaging with people in real life and just talking shoe with them instead of always doing things digitally. Yeah.
Well, come to London. Come to London. Plenty of great places for pop-up shops.
Yeah, definitely would love that.
You got Brixton, pop-up Brixton, loads of places in Shoreditch. I'm sure you're familiar with the area. I've got my kitten running around in the background causing chaos, so I better go and attend to
No
that.
problem.
But in the meantime, Robin, thanks so much for jumping on. Lennertson.com is a place people can go and check the shoes. Spell Lennertson, but we'll put all the links over on the show notes at Menswear Style, so you can
Awesome.
know where to go directly. All right, brilliant. Robin, take care of yourself, mate, and best of luck, continued success.
All right, thanks for having me, and talk soon. All right, take care.
You've been listening to the Menswear Style podcast. Be sure to head over to menswearstyle.co.uk for more menswear content, and email info@menswearstyle.co.uk if you would like to be a future guest on the show. Finally, please help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Until next time.